have the victim impact statements from Delphi today. This is from wishtv.com. This is the local news channel. And the title of this article is Victim Impact Statements from German Family After Richard Allen Sentencing. It starts Indianapolis Wish. Richard Allen, the man convicted of murder in the 2017 Delphi murders case, was sentenced to 130 years in prison on Friday. The family of Liberty, or Libby German, one of the two girls murdered in 2017, provided a copy of victim impact statements in court following the sentencing. I have some of these victim impact statements and I will post them on my community wall if you want to see the actual letters. I'm going to read them from here because it's a more complete copy. Carrie Thomas, the mother of Liberty German, wrote, "Your Honor, I've struggled for weeks over writing this because I am honestly not sure how to explain the path of destruction left in the wake of the decisions made by Richard Allen on February 13, 2017. That day changed all of our lives in so many ways forever. Libby was always my go-to for advice. She somehow would have known exactly what to say in this situation, and I have no doubt that she is currently holding my pen. I had no problem getting the word out when he was just, quote, bridge guy and had not been identified. But I honestly don't know how to process the fact that a husband and father is capable of the horrendous acts of brutality inflicted upon our beautiful children. I was totally blind to the fact that such evil actually existed. I don't know which is worse, knowing or not knowing. The last 2,867 days as of December 20th have been absolute hell for Libby and Abby's friends and family. Next week, we should be celebrating our birthdays together, December 25th and December 27th. Libby would be 22. She should be here. I quit celebrating after her 14th and my 39th. I can't help but see her grin at that, understanding the anxiety that she knew I had about turning the dreaded 40. As Libby's mom, I am left with so many what ifs. I am left without memories of her growing up. Getting her driver's license and first car, her first job, she didn't get to graduate and go on to college. We were cheated out of seeing her be the best auntie. She doesn't get to fall in love, get married, and have babies. She was robbed of the opportunity to experience life and fulfill all the dreams and aspirations she already had at such a young age. I can't even put into words what it feels like to see other parents and their children get those things. For their lives to go on makes no sense to me. I shouldn't be jealous of them, but I am. I can't understand how life managed to go on for everyone else while mine stopped. Instead of those memories and milestones, I am left with this massive grief. Literal hole in my soul. A literal hole in my soul. Broken relationships, shattered hearts, and broken dreams. I struggle daily with guilt, crippling anxiety, complex PTSD, and severe depression. But I have continued to persevere in a world that I don't want to live in without her. My daughters were robbed of their big sister, their childhood, their innocence, and life as they knew it. They had to grow up through so much turmoil. Alexis turned 11 just 3 days after her sister's body was found, on my grandmother's birthday. Birthdays are hard around here. I'll never understand how he was able to get away with it for so long. How can so much evil hide in plain sight? Continuing to walk down streets lined with his picture, making a mockery of law enforcement, the families, the community, and especially Libby and Abby for nearly 6 years. Only Richard Allen has those answers. He has claimed remorse and a need to apologize. I won't hold my breath waiting, but I do deserve those answers. Libby and Abby deserve the whole truth to come out, and I am all ears. While there will never really be justice or closure, and nothing will bring my daughter back, I am so very proud of her for not only exposing her and Abby's killer, but also bringing much needed attention to so many cases near and far. This tragedy hasn't completely stopped Libby from accomplishing at least one dream from beyond the grave. Her courage and strength will live on as she guides us through this lifetime. Until we meet again, she is my sunshine. The next statement is from Mike Patty, who's the grandfather of Libby German, and he writes, Honorable Judge Fran Goal, we appreciate your firm, fair guidance and direction, your ability to thwart off all unnecessary noise and acts that were deployed during this process. Thank you for standing firm and staying focused on what needed to be done. I request you provide the maximum sentence allowed by our justice system, and whatever that sentence is, would also have no possibility of parole. There is no parole available to our girls. For this, I will never forget Surrey. Did Wote Red not present? We appreciate your time spent here and being away from your families. You've had to see and hear things in our society should not be so. But unfortunately, due to the acts of the convict, this is what needed to be done. Being able to absorb and look at things objectively through an unfiltered lens and delivering the verdict, thank you. For this, I will not forget. Prosecution, we appreciate your willingness to stay on task, putting in numerous hours, putting this case above many of your own personal needs. The result speaks for itself, but I wanted to share our deepest gratitude. For this, I will never forget. Investigation team, we appreciate your determination and grit to stay on this for so many years. I have observed from the outside while you investigated so many tips that many have no idea about, all to deliver proof and get to the bottom of this case. Never once did I hear we were out of options. There was always full court press to bring justice in this case. For this, I will never forget. Family, I am so blessed to have such a loving and welcoming family. Only wish I could have prevented any of this from happening and wish I could have protected everyone from having to go through this. Our family is strong and we will march forward and continue to grow. For this, I am grateful. Defense. I understand the role you needed to play, but I cannot connect the ways of our legal system to allow so many things to interfere with the truth and facts to simply be brought before a jury. I cannot imagine our forefathers ever envisioned the attempts to suppress and divert the facts would ever be part of our justice system. One should reflect and review their position to support truth, justice, and the American way. Your inept ability to protect some of the most personal facts in this case, the crime scene photos, and making statements that you really didn't care they were out there. My family will forever have to explain how these are available for people to search. What do I say to my kids, grandchildren, great grandchildren? What will you tell your grandkids? I hope you tell them the truth. I surely will. For this, I will never forget. Convict. I will never understand how you could have conducted such an atrocity. You killed my granddaughter nearly 8 years ago and have only thought of yourself. Your attempts of self preservation are a result of how you really are. Once you committed this crime, you could have been a man, stood up and taken accountability, but you didn't. At any time during these proceedings, you could have stood up and taken responsibility, but you didn't and were only concerned about yourself and tried to get away with murder. Actions always speak louder than words. By being so selfish, you continue to punish and hurt my family. For this, I will never forget. Your act of murder has tested my faith. I am still not ready to provide forgiveness. When I am able to, it will be for my own faith and conscience, not yours. For this I will never forget. I have never felt such hatred and should not be this way towards another human being. What you have done has impacted so many people's lives. We will heal with help from our pastor. I am lucky to have a great family and will enjoy the rest of my life helping and watching all of them grow from our kids to our great grandchildren. This is something you will not get to take away, and you will never get to experience such joy and love as what my family has. Lastly, I hope the rest of your days are spent in as much fear as the girls had to experience the last part of their lives, and I hope those moments haunt you for the rest of your days. You deserve no better. Now is the time to stand up and take accountability. Put a stop to any future attempts to appeal so we can let Libby rest in peace. Mike Patty, grandfather of Liberty German. Becky Patty, grandmother of Libby German. To Honorable Judge Gold, where does one start? How does one explain the effect of how one choice a person made has on an entire family for generations to come? I don't think one can really explain and do it justice. There are not enough words in our language that begins to paint the picture of the grief we live with each and every day. Richard Allen was an adult and he should be held accountable for the choices he made on February 13th, 2017. He chose not to go to lunch with his mom and sister, instead chose to drink beer for liquid courage. He chose to lay in wait for victims, to order them down the hill. He had an opportunity to let Libby and Abby go when that white van drove by, but he chose not to do so. Instead, he chose to take them across the creek where he viciously murdered them, making sure they were dead before he went home and continued his life. Richard Allen viciously and heartlessly stole the choice to live from Abby and Libby that day. He was a coward and didn't want to be held accountable for his heinous choices and actions, so he just killed them and went home. I guess in his eyes, he was nice enough to make sure they were dead before leaving so they wouldn't suffer. A few days later, he developed photos for the family that would be used at Libby's funeral. He stood there watching the family members as they struggled to keep their composure while dealing with insurmountable grief and preparing for the unthinkable that lay ahead, not blinking an eye, with no remorse. I wonder what he was thinking. Our lives turned upside down that day, never to be the same again. Abby and Libby, two young teens with their entire futures ahead of them. They never got the opportunity to make their marks in the world. He stole that from them. Libby never got to go to prom, graduate, go on dates, go to college, get married, or start a family. She never got to be the best aunt ever. He robbed us all. The world was robbed of what could have been. All the while, he went on living his life. He was able to walk his daughter down the aisle and give her away at her wedding. I wonder, did he think of the girls at all while walking her down the aisle? Our families will never get the privilege of watching Libby or Abby walk down that aisle. He took that away from us. The impact of Richard Allen's choices made that day has haunted our families for almost 8 years and continues even now. Because of choices he made and subsequent arrest, he was appointed 2 lawyers to defend him. Those lawyers have done nothing but twist the knife around and around in our wounds Richard caused that day. Because of one lawyer's sloppiness, sealed crime scene photos of Libby's naked and mutilated body were left unattended, allowing images to be taken and spread around to people on the internet. As recent as this week, those crime scene photos were still being shared on the internet for no good reason or entertainment by many. Sharing those photos changes nothing. It does not solve the crime. It doesn't bring the girls back. So now, because of Richard Allen's choices that day and his lawyer's sloppiness, the impact has now become generational for us. One day, when Libby's nieces or nephews decide they want to learn more about their Aunt Libby, they may be faced with those horrible crime scene photos that were so carelessly taken care of. I wonder if his lawyer would have been so careless with those photos if they were photos of one of his children. Would he still have felt no accountability because he was, quote, snookered? And then you have the other lawyer who sat in the judge's chambers and stated he really didn't care that the photos had been leaked. I wonder if he would have been so callous and uncaring if those were photos of his child's naked, mutilated body being shared. Would he still not care? No. These professionals are allowed to claim no accountability for their actions and move on to the next case, disrespecting and devaluing the next victim and their families. Meanwhile, our families are left picking up the pieces because of their choices and actions. In the end, all these choices made by the defense team, the fallout our families now have to live with falls directly on the head of Richard Allen because of the choices he made on February 13th, 2017. I could go on and on about what we lost that day, but it would change nothing. The deafening silence in the house, the milestones missed, the grandbabies never to sit on our laps, the impact Libby and Abby would have on so many lives. Talking about it won't bring them back to us. Nothing in this world can change the outcome of that horrific day. No matter how hard we wish or pray them back, they are gone forever. Only Richard Allen making a different choice that day could have changed it. Their lives were in the balance. He chose to kill Abby and Libby. Their lives matter. He is the one responsible for all this. All I can hope for now is that Richard Allen will be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law for what he did that day. His sentence needs to reflect not only of murdering the girls, but also serving time for each day of the life those girls still had in front of them, for every feat they may have accomplished. I feel he should serve one day behind bars for each future day he robbed from those girls. I hope he is not held in a single occupancy cell since his attorneys feel it would be detrimental to his health. I hope he is ordered to reside in general population so he can have the human interaction he so craves and needs. Last of all, I hope he lives each day of the rest of his life living with the same fear he bestowed on Abby and Libby the last hour of their lives. I hope the choices he made on February 13th, 2017 come back to haunt him, giving him no peace. I realize I should not feel this way, but I can't stop these feelings. I hope God can see my heart and can forgive me. I hope Richard Allen's new relationship with God will finally compel him to do the right thing and stop this nightmare from continuing any longer. Not only for our families, but his as well. He needs to do what he knows God would want him to do. I hope he finally gives the girls the respect they deserve. Give them back the dignity he so callously took from them. Richard Allen took so much from our families and the world that day, but what he will never take from us is our memories we have of Libby and Abby. We will forever keep them alive, even if it can only be in our hearts. I live every day with the burden of choice I made that fateful day. I can never change the results of my choice of letting the girls go to the trails, and I take responsibility for that. What about you, Richard Allen? Will you ever own up and take responsibility for the choices you made that day? Only you can stop this nightmare for all the families. You can make that choice. When does it ever stop? As recent as yesterday, the defense continued playing their games. They know law enforcement investigated the third party theories with never being able to place any of those people at the trails that day. They continued their charades at the expense of Abby and Libby. We don't even want to go there talking about hardships caused to family. Richard Allen is not the victim. This statement is from Josh Lank, first cousin of Libby German. I would like to start off by thanking the prosecution team and all the law enforcement who was involved in this case for the countless hours of your guys' time that was dedicated to this case. And I can't thank each of you enough. You can tell from the beginning that this case was very important to them, and they did everything they could to find justice for these two beautiful girls. I would also like to thank our little community. You guys have been so kind to our family with the love and support you have shown us, from painting the town teal and purple to feeding us every day throughout the trial. I seriously can't thank you guys enough. Our town may be little, but this goes to show that in a time of need, our community pulls together. Libby was my cousin, but the bond we had together was a brother and sister bond that nobody could break. When we were younger, we were together almost every day. It was always Kelsey, Libby, my brother, and I. We would ride the bus to my grandma's after school, and you would never know what kind of trouble we would get into. Libby was one of a kind. She would give the shirt off her back to someone she thought needed it more than her. She was always trying to find ways to help people and make things easier on everyone. She truly was going to do great things in her life. I will forever remember Libby by the amazing memories we made and not how Richard Allen left them on February 13th, 2017. He took so much away from both of these girls. They had amazing lives ahead of them. The pain he has put both our families through could never be forgiven or forgotten. The things we had to see, we will never be able to unsee, all because of him. This man has made my life and my family's life a living hell for the past 8 years. Now it's time for his life to be a living hell. 23 hours a day, no communication, isolation from everyone. That is what this man's life is going to be like until he dies. Richard Allen took two amazing little girls with so much life ahead of them from my family and the Williams family way too soon. And for this action, I hope and pray he lives the rest of his life thinking of the mistakes he made that day. I would like to leave you with this: God doesn't have a place for sick, twisted minded individuals like Richard Allen. The devil has a special place in hell for him, and I hope the prison community can get him there quicker than the sentencing. He is a dead man walking. Judge Gola asks that you take into consideration the max sentencing with no parole. There should be no way this man has a chance to get out of prison and be able to have the ability to do what he did again. Granting him no parole would solidify that. And that's the end of that article. I also have the motion that the defense team filed on behalf of Richard Allen, the appeal. Here we have the appeal filed by the defense. It reads: the state of Indiana, county of Carroll versus Richard and Allen. Motion to refer to state public defender for appointment of appellate counsel. Richard Allen, by counsel, moves this court to refer this case to the state public defender for appointment of direct appeal counsel. In support of this motion, defendant Allen states the following. 1. Defendant Allen anticipates that subsequent to the sentencing hearing scheduled on December 20th, 2024, he will file a notice of appeal with the Indiana Court State of Appeals. 2. Carroll County's Comprehensive Plan for Indigent Defense Services permits this court to refer the case to the State Public Defender's Office for appointment of counsel if an attorney is not qualified or available, or if referral to the state's public defender would be in the interest of justice. 3. Failure to follow the county's comprehensive plan for appointment of counsel jeopardizes the 40% reimbursement the county receives for indigent defense services. 4. Defendant Allen's trial counsel believes that no individual appellate attorney will be able to manage the volume of information in this case under the tight deadlines required by Indiana rules of appellate procedure. Trial counsel further believes that it is in the interest of judicial economy that this court facilitate the appointment of multiple appellate lawyers to prosecute defendant Allen's appeal within a reasonable time, and to further avoid the possibility of lengthy circumstances and delays, which would most certainly result from the appointment of any one attorney to handle this appeal. 5. The state public defender has carefully curated list of appellate attorneys who have handled complex cases with large records on appeal, and this case will be 6. The public defender can consult attorneys on his or her list who are qualified and can work together on the appeal to ensure the deadlines are met and to ensure that the appeal is processed with efficiency and in the interest of judicial economy. 7. A referral to the state's public defender's office will also promote a more neutral and detached appointment of appellate counsel so as to avoid any sense of impropriety that might otherwise be associated with the appointment of local counsel in or near Carroll County or counsel in Allen County, where hearings had been previously scheduled and conducted in this case, and 8. Referring defendant Allen's case to the state public defender for appointment of appellate counsel is in the interest of justice. And that was signed by Brad Rosie. I just wanted to bring that to you guys tonight. I'm not going to give my thoughts on that. It's a hard case. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see y'all in tomorrow's live.